Hey guys, it's Bang for About PC Gamer here. This is my first video of 2016, so Happy New Year to everyone. I was doing a bit of an experimentation with my Intel i7-5930K. Now, out the box, it comes with 6 logical cores and 6 virtual cores, so that's hyper-threading. So technically, the computer sees it as a 12-core CPU, but what it really is a 6-core CPU with 6 virtual cores. Now, in some games, hyper-threading can cause anomalies with performance. It can, make lower minimums and also cause basically lower performance. So I thought I'd experiment with a few games and see if this is actually true. And what I'm going to do is quickly jump into my BIOS now, quickly show you how I enabled and disabled hyper-threading, and then I'll get into a few games and we can just have a look with a side-by-side comparison between the Intel i7-5930K with hyper-threading enabled and disabled. Okay, so I'm just in my BIOS now. I'm going to show you how I disable and enable hyper-threading. So I go to CPU features, and as you can see at the top, it says hyper-threading, which is currently disabled, which basically makes the 5930K to a 6-core CPU. When you enable this, it re-enables the extra 6 virtual cores, which makes the PC see the computer as having 12 cores. So I'm going to run a test to see if it actually increases performance or decreases it, and present you with my findings. So now that you've seen my BIOS, I want to quickly go through my system specification. For those who don't know, I'm using 2 NVIDIA GTX 980 Ti's. These are currently overclocked to 1215 MHz on the core and 1928 MHz on the memory. Now obviously GPU Boost 2.0 will vary depending on the game, so you will see a higher core clock in game than the one I'm showing you now. When it comes to the processor, it is an Intel i7-5930K, but it is overclocked to 4.5 GHz. Now the motherboard I'm using is the MSI X99A Gaming 7, and I'm also using 32 GB of Corsair Vengeance LPX running at 2666 MHz in quad channel mode. For those who are interested, I'm also using a Corsair HX1000i power supply. So those are the specs out of the way. So basically, the reason I'm doing this test is when you really think about it, most games use 3 to 4 cores at maximum when it comes to being a multi-threaded. And with the Intel i7-5930K being a 6-core processor with 6 logical cores and 6 virtual cores, courtesy of hyper-threading, it's questionable how the actual game allocates its resources. Does it allocate to maybe 2 virtual cores and 2 logical cores? Because I would imagine the virtual cores don't yield as much performance as the logical cores, which are the real cores. So disabling hyper-threading could cut that out completely and just get better performance out of your CPU, because let's face it, most games 6 cores is going to be more than enough. So I'm going to jump into this comparison now. We can have a look at the results. So that pretty much wraps it up for the test. As you can see, hyperthreading doesn't always give you a positive effect when it comes to gaming. I'm not too sure why, but Grand Theft Auto 5 in particular showed an increase of 30 frames per second on average and around 31 frames per second on the minimums when it comes to having hyperthreading enabled and disabled. So it just goes to show you that hyperthreading causes a decrease in performance in that game in particular. I'm not too sure why. I would imagine it's because the game is really geared to around three to four cores at the max, and I think the game just allocates its resources randomly, and it doesn't really use up the logical cores first. So obviously when you get rid of your virtual cores, it only has the logical cores to play with, and you get much better performance. That's the only explanation I can think of. Also in CRYSIS 3 as well, you saw an increase of 5 frames per second on the minimum, and pretty much every game I tested showed an increase in the minimum frame. So it goes to show you that 6 cores is definitely enough to run 2 GTX 980 Ti's. So hyperthreading is not essential, but for someone like me that does quite a lot of video editing, it was one of the main reasons I purchased it. But from a gaming standpoint, hyperthreading with a 6-core CPU is not the be all and end all. It doesn't really give you an advantage. But if you're someone that's running an i3 what's only got 2 cores to begin with, then definitely hyperthreading will help out, giving you that extra CPU headroom, and possibly an i7 as well in certain circumstances. Like I remember CRYSIS 3 in certain aspects can bottleneck an i5, pushing all 4 cores to 100%. So you can see increases providing you got less than 6 cores to begin with. So anyway guys, that's it from me. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.